what's the point in going back and remixing these albums when we already have great editions? I've found that when I've gone back and revisited these older 5.1 mixes, that they don't quite hold up as well to some of Steven Wilson's more recent work. It's been over 10 years since these mixes were made. Technology gets better, tools get better, plugins get better, but Steven Wilson himself has had another decade and a half of experience in between the last time he mixed these records and now. I'm very much looking forward to hearing these two Tull records. Greetings, Ian here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So if you've been following my content recently, I have been talking about the eventual Dolby Atmos editions of two Jethro Tull records, 1971's Aqualung and 1974's WarChild. As of this morning, they've been officially announced, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with SDE.com just because it's more kind of graphically interesting than Burning Shed, but this appears to be already available for pre-order from a couple of different vendors. Now, the one thing in question is the actual release date. On Amazon, on Rhino Records, and several other US vendors, it appears to be a September 11th release. However, on SDE and Burning Shed, the release date is August 21st. Now, that's almost a month difference. It's 3 weeks difference, which I think is quite significant. And right now, it's causing me a little bit of confusion because, I'm asking myself this question. Do I roll the dice and pre-order from Amazon and probably get it on September 11th? Or do I try to order it from Burning Shed? Definitely not SDE because the price is higher from SDE. But do I order it from Burning Shed, pay $10 extra or $5 a disc each, and maybe get it a week and a half earlier than the US release? So I'm a hardcore Tull fan. I don't mind paying a little extra for Tull because they're my favorite band. But my point in bringing this up is I really feel like the US and the UK vendors need to get their release dates in alignment because this is just going to cause a lot of confusion among buyers. And, if the UK decide, the UK vendors decide to postpone it by 3 weeks, and I do go ahead and spend $10 extra, I think I'd be very unhappy. I think I'd be very frustrated. So with that kind of a little bit of frustration out of the way, what you get here is two standalone Blu-rays. You can either buy them as a bundle, as you can see here, for example, on the SDE shop, and also Burning Shed offers a bundle, or you can buy them individually. Right now, the retail price on Amazon and Rhino Records and several other US vendors is around $25. So, this is very affordable. And I think the most important thing to people is that these Dolby Atmos Blu-rays do not replace your very excellent book editions of these two records. And I'm going to explain why. So here's what's included. For Aqualung, we get 2026 Steven Wilson remixes, so Dolby Atmos 5.1 stereo, plus the instrumental mixes, which is fascinating. I don't think we've gotten instrumental mixes of these particular Tull records in the past. So we got the original 11 tracks of Aqualung and also the 1974 quadraphonic mix, mixed at AdVision Studio by Robin Black, April 1974. So why this is significant is that I and some of my other colleagues, such as Jonathan, who you may well know, feel that the quad transfers on the Jethro Tull book sets are not the best. They sound kind of dull and not particularly punchy. It is my hope that for these new editions, they've gone back and done fresh transfers of the quad and maybe used a little bit better source. It would be nice if they remastered them a little bit so that they sound a little bit better overall. This is my hope, but you'll have to wait till my review to find out. And I'm sure that when these do come in, Jonathan and I will spend a lot of time talking about them as we do for other Jethro Tull albums, such as the release of Under Wraps earlier this year. So then you have a couple of bonus tracks. In this case, Wondering Aloud Again and Lick Your Fingers Clean 2023 Remix. It appears that both of these are the same as the Still Living in the Past box set versions, but they've been converted to Dolby Atmos, which is cool. You know, I like that. Then you have these additional bonus tracks which were included on the previous 2011 edition of Aqualung, My God Early Version, Just Trying to Be, Wondering Aloud from the 13th of December 1970, Up the Pool, Wind Up Early Version, Lick Your Fingers Clean 2011 Remix, Slipstream Take 2. And these are presented in their original 5.1 and stereo mixes from 2011. Now, here's where things get really interesting. So stereo only, you get Pancake Doomsday. Now, this is a kind of legendarily discussed lost Jethro Tull track from the Aqualung sessions. And the reason why this is interesting is that this song, Pancake Doomsday, was remade in 1974 in sessions adjacent to the WarChild album, but I don't think it was ever intended for the WarChild album. The song was remade as Saturation, which is kind of a post-apocalyptic Fahrenheit 451 influenced track. Now, I'm curious if this alternate title, which is apparently a reference to a Roy Harper track. I do love Roy Harper, but I don't remember which track this is a reference to. It's possible this may have been intended to have different lyrics, but I'm guessing that this is an instrumental. And that's why it hadn't been released before, because it seems like it's taken until the last couple of years for Ian Anderson to be comfortable releasing songs that were incomplete or didn't have vocals recorded. Also, we get an early take of Aqualung as well as Locomotive Breath, which are two really important tracks from this album. So very cool. I'm glad to have this extra material to kind of sweeten the pot a little bit. I'm glad that most of the box set extras are included, although I don't think all of them. I think there's some videos on the box set that we don't get here. Now, it's a different story with WarChild, and a little bit perplexing and maybe a little bit of a, I don't know if I would say a double standard or a bit of a conflict here in the decision making. So with WarChild, again, we get the 2026 Steven Wilson remixes, Dolby Atmos 5.1 stereo plus instrumental tracks. Now, this album is a lot more elaborate thanks to Dee Palmer's excellent arrangements. And I think that this record may be even more impressive in instrumental form. Like, I absolutely can't wait to hear a track like The Third Hurrah in its instrumental mix. And, mixed to Dolby Atmos is just icing on the cake, as they say. So, yeah, we have the 10 original WarChild tracks plus the 1974 quadraphonic mix. Now, here's where we get into the weeds a little bit, and where I think things could have been done a little bit better. So WarChild is one of those Jethro Tull albums that has almost another album's worth of extra tracks and associated material. And if you include the orchestral material, which was largely composed by Dee Palmer, more than an album's worth of extra material. It could have very easily been a double album. In fact, I think the original plan was that WarChild was to be a score for a film that Ian Anderson was writing that would have starred John Cleese as God. And the idea is that there was going to be a rock soundtrack and an orchestral soundtrack released separately. Now, with this new Dolby Atmos Blu-ray edition, we get none of the extra rock tracks and none of the extra orchestral tracks. So it's kind of a good thing, I think, because it means that your box sets are still very much of worth and value. So you can return to them to hear great songs like Glory Row, Rainbow Blues, Paradise Steakhouse, and Saturation, indeed. But if it were me, I think I would have liked to have had those extra tracks, at least the rock tracks, mixed for Dolby Atmos, just because I think songs, again, like Glory Row would be absolutely incredible. Now, you might be asking yourself, what's the point in going back and remixing these albums when we already have great editions? And, I hear you. The 5.1 editions are great, especially Aqualung, which I think is one of Steven Wilson's best mixes. It put him on the map for a lot of people. And I don't think Steven Wilson would have the career remixing classic albums that he does and that he's enjoyed and we've enjoyed, if not for albums like Aqualung and indeed In the Court of the Crimson King, putting him on the map for a lot of people. However, I've found that when I've gone back and revisited these older 5.1 mixes, such as Aqualung from 2011 and Thick as a Brick from 2012, that they don't quite hold up as well to some of Steven Wilson's more recent work. Say his Power and the Glory Gentle Giant remix, which sounds absolutely incredible. Or indeed, even his remix of Locomotive Breath, which appears on the Still Living in the Past box set. I think that blows away the 2011 edition. And this is due to the fact that it's been over 10 years since these mixes were made, and technology has come a long way. We've probably gotten closer, for instance, to being able to capture an analog sound in the digital realm. So technology gets better, tools get better, plugins get better, but Steven Wilson himself has had another decade and a half of experience in between the last time he mixed these records and now. Additionally, when Steven has gone back and redone his older 5.1 mixes, such as the Yes mixes, the King Crimson mixes, the Gentle Giant mix that I mentioned, and others, his remixes tend to be, number one, warmer sounding than the older 5.1 editions. He tends to bring the bass to more prominence, and he tends to wrap the drums around you in the room. And this has been a trend, I think, since about 2016, 2017, that he's mixed drums more immersively instead of positioning them up front. And I get the sense when he did these older mixes that he was trying to be conservative on purpose, because he was trying to honor what these original albums were. And I like the fact that since he's already done that, and now he gets to have another shot at it, that Steven's mixes have trended towards being much more adventurous in the last couple of years. And I would love, or I should say, I'm very much looking forward to hearing these two Tull records with an updated mix, and perhaps even a more adventurous mix, especially WarChild, which has quite a lot going on in the arrangement department. This sort of opens the door, in my opinion, to Steven revisiting Tull albums in the future that he's done. Personally, my pick would be Thick as a Brick next, just because of all of his original 5.1 mixes. I find that one the most brittle sounding, especially at a higher volume. I also think with the added height channels and other speakers at his disposal, he would be able to do a lot, especially with the sound design and overdubs of that record. And I've kind of come to the opinion that of all of his 5.1 mixes for Tull, especially, that Thick as a Brick is maybe my least favorite, just from a technical standpoint, even though I love the record. So that's one I'd like to see him revisit in this form. I would also like to see a Passion Play revisited, just because it's my favorite Tull album. I think an absolute grail album for a lot of people would be Too Old to Rock and Roll, Too Young to Die. Now, they've had another 10 years to find those original multi-tracks for Too Old to Rock and Roll, Too Young to Die. And I'm kind of holding out hope that maybe they have. And that's why it's the only one of the box sets that hasn't been reissued. So that would be like my third choice, is if Steven was somehow able to remix the entirety of Too Old to Rock and Roll, Too Young to Die, not just half of it. Because you may not know this, but the version that's on the Too Old to Rock and Roll, Too Young to Die box set is actually a re-recording from the BBC. I think the re-recording is superior, and I'm actually not that upset that we don't have the original album, but it would be nice. It would also be nice to get a new transfer on that particular quad mix, because I think of all of them, it's maybe the worst sounding. I know people want Crest of a Knave. I understand why people want Crest of a Knave, but remember, the 40th anniversary of Crest of a Knave is next year. It's coming, folks. We are going to get Crest of a Knave. Crest of a Knave has never been one of my very favorite Tull records, but it just seems to be one that people think is the only Tull record in the 80s for some reason, even though it's maybe next to Rock Island, my least favorite of that period. But believe me, with that album being a Grammy winner, and that kind of whole heavy metal thing surrounding it, I would say that Ian Anderson most definitely plans to revisit it, but just be patient. 2027 will be the 40th anniversary of Crest of a Knave, and I'm almost positive we're going to get it. So yeah, enjoy these Tull mixes, enjoy jtull.com. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. If you're interested in ordering this, especially from Amazon, I have left a pre-order link in the description. Now, this is my Amazon affiliate link, which means that if you purchase it via this link, it will help to benefit the channel in a very small but meaningful way. And overall, I would just really appreciate it. But I will also leave links to Burning Shed as well as SDE for viewers in the UK. But until then, you'll hear from me really, really soon. All right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.